Bitcoin is close to becoming worthless.
Let's go. Now, what's the Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's like rat poison.
Yeah. Oh,
The greatest scam in history.
let's get it.
Bitcoin will go to fucking zero.
Yeah.
Alright, you ungovernable misfits. I'm your host, Max. Everybody knows that Bitcoin is useless, worthless, and doomed to fail. But what if everyone's wrong? What if it's the system that is doomed to fail? Join me as I speak to some of the brightest people in the space and slither to the deepest, darkest depths of the Bitcoin rabbit hole. Welcome back, everyone. This is the first episode of a new show. I'm really excited to announce this. I've been working in the background with Sino and with Solex for a few weeks now, and I really think this is going to be something helpful for people. I really enjoyed recording it, and we're going to be doing one every single month, the Meshtadel Monthly, to help people take back their freedom, to help people learn how to be self-sovereign and build a community around it and all the other things that you need. It's not all about just having enough money so that you can be free. There are other factors to this. So really looking forward to learning as the months go on, and I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you to CoinFloor UK for sponsoring this show. If you're in the UK and you are looking to stack sats on a monthly or weekly basis, you can do this directly from your bank account. You can set it up as a direct debit and you can actually cancel at any point that you might want to. If you use the referral code in the show notes below, you will get 30% off, and I think this lasts for about 6 months. So yeah, if you are looking for an exchange and you are in the UK, they are the only one that I can recommend. Next up is CryptoCloaks.com. They are my new sponsors, and I'm sure you already know about these guys, but if you don't, it's CryptoCloaks.com. They are a 3D printing group that makes some incredible stuff, node cases, ways to hide away all of your precious hardware wallets. They also have things like the block mitt for stamping your seed words into metal, and yeah, just loads of amazing stuff that any Bitcoiner would want on their desk or in their office. Check them out at CryptoCloaks.com. I hope you enjoy the show. If after listening you have any ideas or any questions, make sure to reach out, and we would love to have any suggestions on people to have on, anyone who can help people become more self-sovereign, more free. That is what we're all about, and yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. Look forward to hearing from you. Hello, how are we doing?
Really good.
Excellent.
Productive day.
All relaxed, got a drink, settled in.
Almost perfect.
I got my German beer. I'm
Very
happy.
nice.
I got my Czech wine.
Perfect. I've actually got both. I've got a beer and some wine for a little bit after. It's good to catch up with you guys again, and I thought we should do like a little bit of an introduction for anyone listening. This is a show that kind of naturally occurred in the background, wasn't it? We were chatting since we did the first time. Obviously, I'd had Solex and Zeno on previously, and we found that we had a lot of different interests that overlapped. I really particularly enjoyed both conversations and suggested that maybe there is a show that we could have that I don't think is out there yet, where Bitcoiners could learn about the things that they need to learn to have the freedom to have their own citadels, to have their own land, and how to build and all sorts of things. And I couldn't think of anyone else than you two to do this show with and just riff and come up with some ideas and help Bitcoiners have that freedom they desire. So welcome back to the show, and it's a real pleasure to have you back on.
Thanks for having us.
Where do we want to take it first? I guess maybe we could run down some of the things that you guys think could be useful for other people or yourselves, as I know that this is something we all share, this view and of what we want and this freedom and this land. So maybe Solex, if you want to start with some things that you particularly are interested in going forward.
I think it's so vast, the possibilities and the things that are interesting, especially in Bitcoin. And for me, this show would be especially listening and learning as well. I'm a very unsuccessful Bitcoiner, I would say, in the sense that there are so many things to explore still and so many rabbit holes within Bitcoin and self-sovereignty that I did not achieve the least bit yet. So I'm here a student with the rest of you guys, and I think of us three, Zeno might be the most advanced. But for me personally, I am very deep in exploring the social possibilities without being an expert in anything. I just like talking to people and discovering for myself, where do I fit into this world and where can we make this a better world by making it better for myself.
Well, I will jump in there quickly and say that is not true. I've spoken to you a few times now, and you say you're not an expert and you don't know where you fit in. You have some phenomenal ideas. You're very, very good at linking people together. I can see that you're going to make some of these links that are going to really help change this world. So don't beat yourself up like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, we've spoken a few times on the phone. We've had the pod as well. And I know when I speak to someone exceptional, I can smell it. So, don't beat yourself up.
It's not about beating myself up. It's just about being curious about everybody else out there as well. And learning with you guys and with everybody out there from each other and being open to everything out there. I think the most important thing that you can say about yourself is that you know that you don't know without doing discredit on yourself. I'm not saying that I'm a complete fuck up.
Leave that to me.
Yeah, no. I always say, you learn from your mistakes. So I really learned a lot already. So
I like it. And Zeno, a little bit of maybe background on where you are in your journey to freedom and some of the things that we discussed on the previous pod. Anyone who listened to that will know a little bit, but what are the things that are particularly interesting you and what you think other Bitcoiners would benefit from and would be helpful for the show?
Yeah, I was first going to say that, so if you want to learn everything and go down every rabbit hole, I think you need to make a deal with the devil, because otherwise it's impossible to explore it all. True. And I don't think it's actually the goal to be specialized in everything. I like rather the approach to have a broad view about many different fields and then find connections between them. And also notice there are many specialized podcasts, there are Bitcoin specific podcasts, there are permaculture specific podcasts, there are prepper specific podcasts, and the list goes on about finance and everything. And I myself, I have not really discovered those that bring all those fields together. And this is what I also hope from what you're doing right now, Max, giving this broad view by inviting many people from different disciplines and get this broad view out there into the ether.
Yeah, I feel it's particularly important. Bitcoin is one of the tools, and it's a very important tool, but it's just one of the tools that we need for freedom. It's no good having just Bitcoin without having a good security system. And it's no good having just Bitcoin if you don't have somewhere to live. And it's no good having Bitcoin if you're not happy either. There is a lot that you need to have a full and rich life. And I guess the way that I'm viewing it is that if Bitcoin does what I think it is going to do for all of us financially, and my next step is looking and thinking, well, I want to have somewhere that's a home for me and my family. And I want to have somewhere that is good to raise children and that I'm going to be happy and they're going to be happy. And so there's a lot that goes into it, isn't there? it would be nice to have a show where people can tune in, like you said, and they can say, right, what's step one? How do I acquire land? How do I think about doing this? And if I am to get the land, how do I make sure that I do the most that I can with that land, and make sure that if I'm making it self-sustainable, I do it in the right way? How do I build? How do I do things in the most efficient and best way? And so these are all big rabbit holes, but it would be nice to try and tie these things together. And I mean, I know it would help me, and I'm sure others. And from our chat previously, with what you're doing, clearly you're thinking along the same way. You're just a few steps ahead with it. So I don't know, maybe we could start with jumping into the land acquisition. Maybe that's the first step. Would you both agree?
If I may, Max, say just one thing. You said about if Bitcoin takes us where we hope it takes us, etc. I think you should see it independently from that, because it's or not independently. It's more like a symbiosis. If you can make your life work out for you good, maybe that's on land, or even somebody in an apartment with a day job, fiat job, or a Bitcoin job, or whatever. If that all fits together, it does not matter what Bitcoin does. Bitcoin just is, and you can live your life like you want it. So it should not be dependent on whatever Bitcoin does.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you there. I think my line of thinking there is, right now I could buy some land when my house sells.
Yeah.
But it would be not close to what I really desire, not close to be able to do the things that I would really wish to do on my land. And I think there's probably a lot of people in a similar boat where they don't fully rely on Bitcoin being worth more. And maybe it is that they use it as collateral in the future, or some people would sell a little bit to get that dream bit of land. But I do think it can be life-changing for a lot of people who are having this dream. So yeah, I'm with you, but I think that's really why I'm thinking that way, specifically through my lens.
Yeah, but I just said it because it's becoming nowadays. Hodling is like almost the only option out there, because otherwise you have weekends or whatever. But exactly for the point of buying that land can be more valuable to you than whatever Bitcoin is worth.
Yeah, you could also view it from the lens of you want to protect your stack. So you also have to improve everything around your life that makes it less likely that you have to tap into your cold storage. Like by actually tapping into the cold storage, because like you need to first make some investment. Like there is actually a layer after skin in the game in Bitcoin is having skin into what protects you skin in Bitcoin. It's like kind of another layer that you grow on the outside, in my mind.
Yeah, it's so true. Okay, so if we look at it like that, if we look at it as you need to get your life together, no one should be completely relying on the price of Bitcoin changing their life. They shouldn't be relying on that. You should be doing other things to make sure you have a full and rich life. But for someone who is in a position where they are looking now and they are saying, okay, I would like to take back as much of my freedom as possible, and I'd like to have some land, and I'd like to raise a family and to do the best job I can and possible, where do they start? Is there something that you guys think before this land acquisition? Is there a step before that we're missing?
Yeah, I think so. If I may, so
yeah, sure.
Before like actually acquiring land, one first needs to make considerations about the circumstances, like what do they want, where do they want to live, and how do they actually envisioning it all together. And once this is clear, you have a template now, like, okay, this is the type of life I want to have, and to have this type of life, I need that kind of land. You could, for example, want to be completely isolated, like live somewhere out there in the sticks. Nobody is ever coming to you. There's no civilization almost. Or you're the complete opposite and you want to live in the city. Like, I think it's also completely valid. If you think this is what you want and you feel comfortable living in the city, of course you can have your own land in the city. it's just a bit more expensive, or it could be just a flat in a house. Everything comes with advantages and disadvantages. So you need to know in advance what you actually want. In my case, for me, it was clear that I want to get out of the city, and I take the trade-offs. Like, for example, that there's no transportation, public transport nearby. The closest hospital might be half an hour away. Schools about your kids. Like, you also need to really think about your offsprings if you're going to have some. Like, if you live alone right now, might not be a problem to live somewhere in the desert. But if you also intend to have kids, you also need to think about their lives and whether the place you're going to acquire is going to be fit for theirs as well.
Exactly, and also be able to change your mindset in that. Because if you have offspring and your children are happy as a child playing in the forest or wherever you live, when they become teenagers, suddenly their place is not so interesting anymore because they want to go out and they don't have transportation to the city, for example. A very weird example, but I just realized how I felt when I grew up in a very small town. We had the forest across the street, and we had not a really grassland, but something else side, and then a sand pit on the other side still. We had a great youth, but then when I was going out, that was suddenly like a huge undertaking to go to a party, for example. And also for yourself, if you buy a place, it might be that your psychological setting completely changes. So it's an ever evolving concept as well. But I agree completely. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say what you're saying is that the what am I trying to say? That the setting that you're living in will change your perspective on life. Is that kind of what you're saying? It will actually affect the way that you experience and live your life and the way that you think and feel.
I think life just comes at you and you have to roll with the punches and just take life as it comes. It's not because you buy a house or an apartment or land that you have to stay there forever. Just have to have an open enough mindset to go further and dare to change.
Yeah, it could also be very well that you just live there for a couple of years and then you're ready to move again because you learn something in life, or it actually enabled you to acquire something more desirable.
Yeah, but it all starts with looking to yourself and your situation. What do you need? What do you want? And go from there.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. So someone needs to find and decide what they want from life and what they are possibly going to want in the coming years from life, and their decision has to be made on that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's easier to do it from each of our perspectives of what we want, and then we sort of see if there's any common threads, and then we can take it from there and go down one of those rabbit holes, and the shows will evolve from that. I think most, if I would say most Bitcoiners that I speak to are not wanting to move to a city. They're wanting to move from a city. They want more land. They want to be a little bit more secluded, and that seems to be the norm, but it doesn't mean it's for everyone. So Solex, what would yours be? Looking now, if you were to dream up what would be perfect for you and your family and the way that you want to push your life forward, what are the things that you are looking at and would be a must?
There you say it exactly, and your family. That's why I say also the different factors in life that bring you wherever you are. Seeing Untapped Growth doing what he's doing made me jealous in the sense of, wow, this is really beautiful. What is he doing? But it wouldn't be possible for me. My family is not in the same mindset, especially like that. So for me, the decision to buy a house several years ago fixed me in my current position. I'm stuck where I am. I don't see any real possibility to change that, especially because my wife wouldn't want to move out. But that doesn't mean that I do not have that aspiration to have some land and do something more productive with that than just having nice flowers and a garden to maintain for the missus to have nice flowers. But that said, I was already looking for different possibilities here in the neighborhood. And in Europe, it's not so easy as or I don't want to say that it's easy in United States where Untapped Growth is doing his thing. But in Europe, it's all more patchwork of ground and way more expensive on acreage if you compare prices. But in a pure fantasy-wise or optimal utopical situation for me, I'm looking into a forest where I can take out Solex Boy, my son, do some real nature adventures, have a bug out place there actually as well. Possibility to just go out camping or even seek refuge from the stress or from whatever is needed, while still having the possibility to come back to the house here. More house-based level, I would say, since my wife and family is here, I also want to make this place my safe haven. Whatever happens, if need be, I can always flee, but that doesn't mean that you want to leave behind whatever you built up already. So, as a Bitcoiner, you think also about security, especially. Be it in the city or in the village or wherever. Like I said in the beginning of the show as well, it is. You think about a lot of possibilities. It's the possibilities are so vast. We see how the politics in the world are going really berserk now. The lockdowns and the fear mongering and the emotions that they are cooking up, that no coiners are cooking up to Bitcoiners, especially. So Zeno doing on Twitter some discussions with some no coiners.
I should stop that. It's wasting too much time.
But they really become they become really like not aggressive, but the language is becoming at least more aggressive. They're talking about cyber attacks at this moment, but that's not too far away of physical threats, I would say. So that's why the on personal level, on realistic perspective, I also think about my place where I live now. That has to be safe before I can think about my dream forest or whatever more natural environment that I would look for.
From what you've just described there, is the way I see your thinking is you're looking at it from, it's almost like you and your family standing in a room and then you build everything out from that. Yep. That's the central point. That's what matters to you most. Then you're looking at, okay, this is my family. I want them to be happy and I want them to be safe. So I'm looking at security, and then from there, making sure that the home is a happy and good place. It's important that that is the way you want it to be. And then from there, you would build out and you'd be looking to have forest and somewhere to go with your son and go camping and escape the world. That's a really nice way of looking at it. And it's a very logical way of looking at it, because there's no point in getting the forest, spending your money on that, going camping, and then you come home and you realize you've been robbed. You know, that is not so smart. Okay. Yeah, that's very logical. It makes a lot of sense. And, I think a lot of people will think along the same route. So let's start from the beginning again. You've got the family. The next thing is going to be security and home. You know, if at any point I'm doxing or anything like that, you just say "fuck off, Max," and we take a step back. But is there anything that you're thinking about from a security perspective that might be useful for other people?
Yes. The most important thing is to assess where you're living. I had a website, shit hits the fan, the abbreviation, so SHTF. Is a guy in ex-Yugoslavia. I don't know which part he is now, but he lived through the civil war there, and he described what he went through. And I was a lot into prepping and everything about that. And the most important lesson there was actually to get to know your place where you're living. And that's just central awareness of the now. And that's not only where you're living, but if you see outside and people, or even preppers, they're completely prepared for zombie apocalypse, but they're watching on their phone when they go outside and not even looking when they're crossing the street. So it's about centering yourself, seeing where you are, what do I have, what would I do, and looking at the options from there. And because it's talking or coming back to the Bitcoin, is you have the
You guys there?
ledger hack, which doxed a lot of people, but at the same sorry
Sorry,
no
guys.
problem.
Just pause it there for a sec, because I lost you both about 10, 15 seconds ago. And so the last thing I heard, and I'll edit this, so don't worry. The last thing I heard was being aware of your surroundings, and that preppers would cross the road not looking, even if they're ready for a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, okay. Damn, where was I now?
Sorry.
No problem. I was ranting anyway, so.
It was an interesting rant, though. Like, I think you really hit a very important issue here. Like, not just being aware of the specific things, like giving concrete examples, but first making an outline of the place you live in and what might hit you. I'm just looking at this website. It's called shtfplan.com, or is it another one?
That might be. He has a special name, Silco. I don't remember it, but that might be the one. Yeah.
If you do remember, can you send it so that I can put it in the show notes?
Yeah, sure, will do. But yeah, it's about being in the here and the now and realizing what risks you put yourself in, I guess. It's about I really like Bitcoinowski's flag, for example, with a skull. But then again, why would I buy a flag and hang it out here for everybody to see? Well, I bought 3 T-shirts and 2 caps, and I've I love them too much. I will wear them, but it is because nobody here understands it anyway. But there is the, how to say, before you look at the next hill where you can build your fortress, be sure that you can get there safely without falling down a cliff. Because we're all looking for the big threat of people hacking our hot wallet, for example, or our node, or coming for our ledger. But a lot of the criminals here in the neighborhood don't even know what is a ledger, for example, even though the ledger people got doxed.
Yeah, the bigger threat is often the $5 wrench attack.
Yeah.
I think we just lost Sol. He dropped out of the call.
Did I drop out the call? I hear you guys.
No, I can see him.
Okay, then it's just me.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to add something. I just forgot it.
$5 wrench attack.
No, I lost that thread. Sorry about this. But to add to the list of the Shit Hits the Fan Plan, there's also another podcast. I haven't listened to it myself, but I often heard of him. Jack Spirko with the Survival Podcast might also be an interesting one. It's like a lot about prepping yourself for the eventual apocalypse, and I think it's also including a lot of strength building and just overall preparedness for whatever may come.
Yeah. That's what I did with Solex Boy.
Yeah, I remembered what I was going to say about security.
Yeah.
A common theme amongst Bitcoiners is that we are often being warned about buying land because it could just be taken away from us from the government. Like if they just turn communist or fascist or whatever, and they feel the need to just confiscate your land, then of course you have very little say in that. It's a risk to buy land, but I think it's a risk that might be worth it. Like, I mean, of course, you have to live with this possibility, but also you need to consider like how likely that is going to be, and if it's really too risky for you, I mean, you can always live the digital nomad life if you have the skills to do so. But not everybody is equipped for that either. So
That's a good
it's
point.
tricky sometimes.
Yeah, it's a good point because even if you
Are you both still there, or
can you hear me?
Yeah, no, it does keep cutting in and out weirdly, but they're all is saying green and showing us online where it wasn't before. So
Okay.
I'm not sure why it is. I'm not sure what's happening, but it's randomly, like it was one of you then the other.
They're hacking us.
as long as it's still recording and we are not cut off
Yeah.
completely?
No, we're okay. We're okay.
No, I just wanted to pick in on that.
Yeah, but
Zeno.
I feel like you want to talk a bit more about specifics about searching for land and what to look out for, right?
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking. I'm thinking that that's probably the starting point once someone has made a decision of where they want to take their life. So you, like you say, some people will say, "I want to be a digital nomad. I'm single. I don't want a family. I work from a laptop. You know, why would I want to be in one location?" Completely get that. That makes complete sense. But I think for anyone who is looking to have one place where they build their citadel and they want to be self-sufficient and they want to think about security and they want to think about having their own vegetables and fruit and having a small holding or something like that, it seems as though the first step would probably be to buy land or to buy at least a property that has land.
Doesn't even have to be yourself alone. Like, I think many Bitcoiners want to live the Citadel dream. So if you even can find fellow plebs who share the same vision, you could even band together. I think it would make many things a lot easier because you get so many people from different walks of life. There might be an architect, a doctor, or just people who know how to farm. Practical skills, carpeting, plumbing, even. I think if you can find a community that shares the same values, it's probably something more to strive for. For me, myself, I started with the land hunt before I even immersed myself in the Bitcoin community. I think if I had to do it again now, I would definitely seek out and find fellow Bitcoiners who would like to do this thing with me together.
It's an interesting idea that. How would you view it in terms of, funnily enough, I have spoken to a couple of British Bitcoiners and I won't dox their names, but we've loosely talked about something similar. How would you view the idea of land ownership? Would you be thinking, oh, well, you go in together on a large area, but you section it off and each person will own a specific amount of it? You have like shared infrastructure. How would you be thinking about something like that if you were to do it again?
That's an interesting question. There are two ways. Either you split it up and everybody has their own little plot, or what I think might make more sense is that you share the land. Yeah, you can have multiple owners for a plot, and then each of them has their own little house, or maybe it's a bigger building with multiple flats inside. There is a lot of possibility there. I think it's up to the community how they want to live that.
The issue I see with things like that is, for example, with a lot of things in life, you go into something with everyone in agreement and you all have a shared vision. And over time, people change, people's views change, their ideas change. And if you weren't to each have your own specific part of the land, even if you do share the infrastructure, it could be that one of the people is to fall out and cause problems for everybody else. And then just the way the legal systems are, certainly in the UK, it's very, very costly and very difficult to sort any conflict out in a good way. And so that would be my concern. You have someone in there and they suddenly turn into a lunatic or the crazy shitcoiner BSVer or something weird like that, and start like charging around doing all sorts of weird things that are just not in line with what everybody else wants anymore. Then you need a way to sort that, I guess, is the issue.
Yeah, your concern is totally valid. It's actually a good point. There might be setups that actually allow for people to come and go if needed. Or at least if somebody disagrees, then they have their own little bit of land. And as long as we don't attack each other, it should be all right. I mean, like in villages or in communities, there must be differences between people and they are managing to work them out, right?
True. Yes. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, but the worst case could be that we start fighting, but I hope not. But looking at Twitter sometimes, especially when Bitcoin goes sideways, then we need to find another enemy, especially like among us.
Very true.
Soul Exporter, are you still there?
Yeah, I was not sure either. It sounded like there was a bit of a lag or delay.
If he's talking, I definitely cannot hear him.
Okay.
So I'm starting to get a bit concerned because he hasn't said anything in a while.
Okay. Hello.
I can hear you, but with some background noise. But I can hear you. Zeno can't hear you.
Shall I drop out and jump in again?
Zeno, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Max, yes. Yes.
I can hear you as well.
Okay.
If I cannot hear Soul, that's going to be interesting. You have to mediate between us.
Yeah. No, that's not going to be possible. That would be difficult. It's been a bit funny for the last sort of 10 or 15 minutes. It's been like really in and out, and then I've heard one of you and not the other, and vice versa. So should we cut it? I send out a new link.
For me, anything goes.
Well, it depends how you see it. If you think what Peter was just talking about in this weird situation is still valid, we could just cut it off and start a new one, and then you just put them together.
I'll do that. Welcome back, guys. I'm not sure what was happening there. Both of you thought each other were ignoring you. I thought everyone was ignoring me. We had to give up on that episode, so there'll be some editing for me to do there. But it's a real shame because there were some good points being made, and it's exactly why I thought this show would be so great and get people on with different perspectives and just throw up different ideas and possible opportunities or possible problems and basically save people from having issues going forward. So maybe now, as Zeno, I know you've obviously gone through this process of land acquisition. It would be good to hear from you some of the things you went through, some of the things you had to consider, and whether you do anything differently if you had your time over again.
Yeah, as I said earlier already, the first thing is to know the location you want to be in. And for me, I first wanted to have something closer to capital city, to Barcelona, which quickly turned out not to be so easy or feasible, because the closer, of course, you get to the bigger cities, the more expensive the lands get, and the smaller they even become. So for me, it was clear that I wanted to have something bigger for a more modest price. So slowly starting to expand the search radius away from the family of my girlfriend. But we found something not that far, like 1.5 hour drive, more or less. And yeah, the search was not easy. It took us like 3 years searching every day, looking on the platforms. There were many lands, many good candidates actually, but you always have to go drive there to see it with your own eyes. And then quickly you realize, oh, wait a minute, this is actually not what you want. It's either between two other properties and the neighbors don't seem so all right, you don't want to be there. Or the land is actually way smaller than it seems on the picture. Or if you start looking deeper into the geology, sometimes they're also called natural reserves. Like a part of the land was under protection. So you could not build anything there or even cultivate if you wanted to. So that's something to consider as well. So we always try to scrutinize as much as possible the land we were looking for. Like the house needed to be good, the land itself needed to be good, and the location, of course. And coming from this permaculture perspective, because I was reading up at the same time about permaculture, I learned to know what would make a good land when you look into cultivating, especially. But it doesn't even need to be cultivating, also living comfortably without expending so much energy. So the first thing that for me is very important was, where's the sun? Especially if you live in more colder climates, you want to get as much sun as possible. So if you live in the northern hemisphere, you probably don't want to buy property on the north side of the mountain because it's going to be in the shadow, especially during winter, and you will be fucking cold. So it even applied to where I live in Spain. I knew that, or we knew that we wanted to have more sun, especially during winter when it's low. So it needed to be south facing the land. And that was the first criteria. So we could already cross off the list everything that was now north facing. It made it a bit easier, but also a bit harder because there was less, less options. to choose from. And we found a couple of lands that were south facing nicely, but then the house was not. Like there were really nice houses, but they were completely shaded, even though it was south facing. Like all the windows on the wrong side, and we were like, this is not gonna work. Like it's nice in summer, for especially if you're living in hotter climates, but in the winter you have to rely on heating. Like it's not like winters are still super hot here. It's getting close to zero or sometimes even below zero. That's that about the sun, and also how the house is designed. If it's inviting sun, I think we can mostly agree that many people, they actually look for a bright place that is inviting the sun. I think we naturally seek out those qualities of a good house. And if you covered that, for me it was also important about the climate situation, like how much is it going to rain, and if it's not too dry or too moist. And if it's raining, how's the land shaped for you to actually make use of the water, if it's going to be a problem. Like on some, the house was, for example, in the lowest point, and if it's raining, all the water would be coming to the house. And then you have to deal with that, of course, as well. So after looking for a long time, we finally found one place with an old ruin of a stone house. It was south facing. It has two big, beautiful arches in the inside, and we are planning at some point the front wall to also open it up. But because of regulations, we have to keep it closed and not tell anybody that we're going to make two arches because of regulations. It's actually completely not allowed to take down a wall and rebuild it. So regulations are also something that varies in, I think, many countries, especially from region to region. They all have their little regulations that can be completely different from each other. And they can get quite ridiculous. For example, we want to have a metal roof, but it's not possible under the regulations. So they actually demand that we have roof tiles made of ceramic, which is just for pure aesthetics. Like there are even regulations for aesthetic reasons, which they don't have to make sense in a practical way, because we don't want roof tiles. We want to actually remove them and collect as much rainwater as possible. And roof tiles, they would prevent that because they first soak it up and there's more friction, so not all the water is actually flowing to the water tanks. And it wouldn't be a problem normally, because I think not many people actually think about, hey, I want to collect water from my roof. Like, as I told you in our last chat we had, that most are just thinking about how can I get the water away from the house as quickly as possible. But okay, I'm going way too deep already. It's more about
No,
the
no,
land.
no, no. It's not. This is great. This is exactly what I want. I was just trying to lead us to the land acquisition as a starting point, but these are really, really important ideas and things that I think people mainly won't have even thought about. You know, the idea of collecting the water rather than trying to push it away is, when you think about it, really logical, but it's not something that's widely done. So that sort of stuff is brilliant. I think it's really important.
But that also depends really strongly on the climate that you live in, right?
Yeah, totally.
Because Spain is then a lot drier, I think. Sorry, I hope I didn't dox you.
No, I
Okay.
already said.
Okay, good, yeah. And with all the cuts, I wasn't sure. Yeah, it's made me think about it as well, that it very strongly depends on where you live and what are your needs. And you really have thought about it a lot on where you're going to be and what you need. And the question that I had about that was actually before even going to looking for the land, where did you look for your information to base your decision upon?
Yeah, in my case, there are a few platforms. I think every country has them, where you can just go online, look for the offers that people have, the lands they want to sell. In my case, we found one on a website called idealista.com. I think it's only in Spain. So if you're a Spanish listener, you probably know it anyway, because this is where almost everybody looks for flats if they want to move.
I meant one step further still, one step further back, I mean. Because you have all those decisions about the south facing. You want the house not being low according to the land. For cultivating land, that's in the permaculture that you found most of information. But that counted also for the house, or that was just your own logic to look out for those elements?
Yeah, permaculture applies to both.
Okay.
Like, permaculture is not only about cultivating, actually. It's way more than that. It's the way you live, even how you manage your money, or even a company. There are companies that are run on permaculture principles.
Interesting.
Yeah. And even cities, like if you do a PDC in permaculture, they also talk about how you plan communities and even small villages. And I think it scales to bigger cities as well. So there's a lot of wisdom and knowledge that you can apply through all areas in your life, actually.
Yeah. And now I'm gonna sound like a total retard, but what is a PDC?
PDC, sorry, it stands for Permaculture Design Course.
Okay, thank you.
It's something they run officially, and only if you actually get certified in a PDC, you can call yourself permaculturist, like officially. I think they even have it copyrighted, so nobody can do nefarious things with it, just for protective reasons on the legal level.
Very interesting. Thank you.
And so this idea with permaculture, is it perma as in permanent?
Yeah, well, it comes from permanent, like going on its own forever, ideally, and culture, like from cultivating. One of the core principles in permaculture is you look to the energy, like you do an energy audit, and you analyze how much energy goes inside your system and how much you lose on the other end. So everything can be broken down to energy. Bitcoin, we know, is an energy currency even. So it goes so well with permaculture even.
That's right.
And there is one interesting example, like currently in agriculture, it's very fossil fuel intensive. Like, you run your tractors on fossil fuels, fertilizer are fossil fuel based, and pesticides and all those things. And farmers, they like to talk about their yield, like, oh yeah, I got this many tons of potatoes. But if you just break it down to the level of energy, like, you can distill potatoes and you can make alcohol from them, which you could use as fuel. So like, you can get somehow the calories you get out of. And if you do the math, And it turns out that, for example, you invest 1,000 times more of energy in form of fossil fuels to get 1,000 times less of yield in forms of potatoes than your energy audit tells you that you're doing something wrong. And currently, this is not very obvious because energy, especially fossil fuels, are still cheap. But once the tap of that is closed, you have to reckon with that. And if you're not doing a good job where you put less energy and get more out of it, then you're not sustainable. And that's the same principle that I applied to finding a land to see which landscape allows me to store and collect to catch the most amount of energy without losing it quickly. Currently, this is the problem I'm facing because I still have a lot of runoff on my land. I don't have the plants that can soak up the sun energy. I have one solar panel, and I'm receiving the water tank hopefully next week, so I can start collecting the energy. This is what I have been building up to for years now, to start collecting that energy. And in Bitcoin, it's the same. We try to catch it when Bitcoin is cheap and sats are cheap, and hold them through a higher energy state. It's the same principle there that a good hodler makes. And I think you could say it's a permaculture thinking even.
It definitely feels they are very, very aligned. All the planning and the thinking is done before moving. Everything is very efficient and thoughtful. It's low time preference thinking rather than just trying to get the most yield as quickly as possible. And, it's not about that. The way that you're describing the build and the way you're thinking about things is very Bitcoin-like. And the fact that you are making the most of the resources you have and not being wasteful is something that I think is really missing from society at the moment. It seems so logical, everything that you're saying, but almost none of it is ever done by normal people. Like, you never see it. There's all this talk constantly about, from every company, oh, we're green, we're sustainable, we're doing this, we're doing that, and mainly absolute bullshit. Whereas this is something that, it's just fucking, it's bullshit, and people fall for it. But I think it's something that we can all take personal responsibility for ourselves and say, okay, I may not trust the governments, I may not trust the institutions to do this, but this is something I can do myself. And this is something that you're already doing and thinking about, which is awesome, because if everyone thought a little bit more that way, we could make some real change. And and all the resources that are wasted, you spoke to me last time about this idea of digging like sort of trenches to make sure that the water wouldn't run off, and so that would actually then go into the soil so that you wouldn't lose it because it would just sit on top. Just not something I'd ever thought about. Just, it's not something I've ever thought about in any way. But once you said it, I was like, yeah, why doesn't everyone do this? Like, why are people just not... Yeah, why don't they have this way of thinking? And that's really why I think this show could be useful, is that people are busy. It's fucking hard just to keep up with all the Bitcoin stuff. If you're trying to wrap your head around it, it's almost a full-time job. And so if we can give these little hacks and these little bits of advice to each other, and everyone can bounce ideas off each other, think anyone on Twitter who listens to this, they might say, that was really cool. Like, I've got this other idea that I want to share, or I think you should speak to this person because they've got some really great ideas. As a community, we can make some really big changes.
Is this something, speaking of low time preference, Bitcoiners, especially, they're inclined to also start looking into permaculture? This is something I noticed very early on when I started to engage with the community, that there is a high percentage, like higher in comparison to normal people, a higher percentage of Bitcoiners who also are interested in permaculture. And I currently am trying to find them all, at least make a list. I made a list to follow on Twitter if you're interested in following some other Bitcoiners who also are interested in permaculture. And recently, I think it was also with the help of going on to your podcast, Max, I got asked if there's a Telegram group of Bitcoiners and permaculture, and I was not. And now it's open. I opened it, and if you like, you're invited to join.
Awesome. Very cool.
If you think about it, actually, the things that the gas flare mining and what Tarantula is doing, Hodl Tarantula is doing, is also kind of permaculture, because they're capturing energy that's not being spent.
Totally is. The way I learned it, the energy that is wasted is going out the so-called sink.
Yeah.
And if you can find elements in your system that allows you to catch it just before it gets out of the sink and cycle it back to the top of the system, then you're doing permaculture.
Huh.
This is exactly what it is.
Don't let waste go to waste.
Exactly. Like, actually, it's another principle or directive is that if you have an output, which might be gas that is just flaring away, if you can manage to connect this output with another input, then you also solved the waste problem. Because if you cannot find an input for your output, then you have waste.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, because you don't know what to do with it. So it goes somewhere on a dump or in the atmosphere, and it just pollutes the environment.
Yeah. That was actually my take on my forest idea. We have in the neighborhood in a lot of forests that have problems with certain bugs that are killing the trees, and they're cutting them down, and it's like waste wood because it's destroyed, whatever. And I was thinking about buying some land like that, a destroyed forest, because most of the forest that's being sold are being sold for quite some money for the wood, especially now that the prices are going up.
Lumber go up.
Yeah, lumber go
Lumber
up.
go up.
But if you take such a wasted forest by eaten away half by parasites, it's a rotten wood. I was thinking about like Stackmore. I forgot his Twitter handle again, because he's Stackmore, but he's Bubble
1971 bubble.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. He has some really good engineering designs and stuff like that. So it would be great to find someone else's waste and turn that into energy and do something with that. That would be my dream.
It's a lot of arbitrage opportunity, my friend.
Yeah. So that's what I was looking in.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea. I think I listened recently to a episode with Marty and Untapped Growth, and he was discussing at one point something to do with this, that it may be the same person who was buying, or no, not buying, being given wood that was taken from flooding. That's Nunya. Okay. Yeah. So is that the kind of thing that you're thinking about, is that you would use the wood in that way and then use it as a fuel to run miners?
Yeah. But so Nunya is planning to do biochar, creating biochar from the waste wood from storms. Yes. And by creating biochar, there is a gas coming free, and with that he would try to run miners. So with the same principle, but then with destroyed trees that they want to cut down anyway to get rid of the bug that's going around. At least I would like to explore the possibility to run something like that, and not only to mine Bitcoin, because it would be a nice extra, but it's just such a pity to waste. I don't know what to do with the trees now at the moment, but that was the main reason to look into those forests. It's be the change, no? That's what I said.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Exactly. No, that's a great idea. I love that. I absolutely love all of this stuff that comes out of the Bitcoin community is something that I just don't hear elsewhere. I don't hear any lateral thinking. I don't hear any solutions. It's just wasteful and stupid. And then you get this group together and they're thinking of things out of the box. And not to derail the conversation too much, but after you've just talked about that and what Nunya's doing and all the things that we've discussed here, I want to take it back to this idea that Zeno, I think you had mentioned, with having potentially groups of Bitcoiners that could purchase land together and share infrastructure. And I wonder whether that would help in more ways than just bringing the cost down, but in terms of responsibilities and trade within these groups, and potentially not just one area or citadel. I'll just take England, for example. Potentially you might have 10 to 20 different groups that all have 5 to 10 different people all buying up a large amount of forest and land. And maybe you could have a network within that where, for example, Solex is one of them. He's moved to the UK. He's bought this forest that's not really worth anything because it's being attacked by these bugs. And he's now actually running this biochar so he can actually produce fuel. But we don't have the ability down in the southeast because we don't have that forest, but we're producing something else that he wants. And potentially we can have a trade network within each country or throughout Europe that completely cuts out the current system and all the stupid regulations and nonsense that goes on, and be self-sufficient to a better degree, because there's only so much you can do as one person. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't be doing the biochar and doing your own farming and running a normal job and it would be good if people can specialize in certain areas, but they get everything they want from each other.
Yeah, you're actually starting to point at a topic that I wanted to bring up in this conversation. It's
good.
Sol and his son. Sol and his son, they were thinking of a new concept, the Meshtadel concept, and I think, Sol, you really should introduce us to this concept. I think it's so worth it right now.
Yes, we touched on it briefly. Yeah, let's go into it.
So Solex Boy and me are doing a write-up now, trying to get it published in Citadel 21 magazine. The idea is actually to cooperate between different Bitcoiners. This so wide and so far. For the Meshtadel itself, I would recommend. Well, first of all, that the Citadel 21 would publish the article, but I can share it already to you, Max, afterwards.
Yes.
Are
they going to? Sorry, just to cut in.
Are
they going to?
I hope so. I will send it in. They were interested in the concept, at least. I don't know if they like the final write-up. Okay. My writing is not always the best, but I have some. Zeno already checked it out, and a good friend of ours is also checking it. So I have good hopes that the little bugs are taken out. But the concept of working together is something that's really close to my heart, because I think the most important that we need for a circular economy to have Bitcoin or sats as really valuable is not only holding but also using it. And hearing this story, actually, and it's not really the Meshtadel, but it's the working together as a Meshtadel or different Bitcoiners on different locations working together. It comes back to what I said in the beginning of the podcast, is it doesn't really matter what the fiat value would become of Bitcoin if you and your co-Bitcoiners or the people that you consider your Meshtadel, the people that are in your distributed Citadel, are agreeing on what is worth those sats. Those sats don't. Yeah, they. It doesn't matter what a no-coiner would give for those sats. If you know what I mean. If you say, okay, bread is 100 sats, the lumber is 500 sats, in whatever measure, as long as you people agree to trade in that currency, it doesn't matter what the exchange says it's worth.
That's true. And absolutely true. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin.
Exactly. And that is why I think it's so important that value doesn't matter.
Can you expand on the Meshtadel idea? Because you touched on it when we spoke. So anyone who hasn't listened to our chat, go back. It's about 5 episodes ago. But you touched on it and said that you and your son were working on something together and thinking out the theory, and that you guys also like to do kind of like wargaming and this kind of stuff. And we didn't go too deep into it, but it sounds exactly the kind of thing that I think a lot of us are hoping for. And the point you've made about having a circular economy within Bitcoin, I think, is crucial going forward, because the finance bros and the bankers and all those fuckers are going to get involved. They're gonna do their thing, but that's not real Bitcoin to me. So this sounds great. So yeah, if you can dive in and tell us a bit more.
Yeah, so it originated in a game that we played between the two of us, and it was actually also about what we're discussing here. How do you build your citadel? And different strategies passed along, and Solix boy, 10 years old. I remember myself when I was that age. War games and talking strategy is just pure fun. But we did it in that way that it was, I was at least a critical listener to whatever Solix boy was saying. So for each tactic or strategy or weapon system that he thought of, I had the possibility to just give the same strategy or fantasy back to him. So he has a cannon. Okay, good. You are in a country. Police comes there. You shoot a cannon. Then when a cannon is shot, then the police will call in the army because they cannot handle it. So it was quickly clear that in a realistic situation, any country that you live in is always going to be able to put more troops on the ground than whomever. Even if Sailor has a mini army, the America is going to be always stronger in numbers and weaponry that they collected over the years. Even though if you don't want to take over the country, you just want to defend yourself, that doesn't matter. The history you have seen in the United States, especially already some communes that tried to separate or whatever they did, they always get taken over. So the only logical way to go around that is not try to fight, because we don't want to impose any way of living to other people. We just want to live our own lives. And it's like distributed, like everybody has, or a real Bitcoiner should run at least his own node. So instead of nodes, it's just people organizing themselves in their own situation, in their own house. They are a node on their own. And if a country decides suddenly here it's forbidden to have any Bitcoin, and we will come and get them, what was the clause that they came for the gold?
6102.
Yeah, that one. So they do the same on Bitcoin, and all KYC Bitcoin, they're gonna come for it. And if you cannot deliver it, you sold it on HODL or on BISC or whatever, we're just gonna come for you. Not only your house, but you as a person, you're gonna go in prison. Well, the best thing you can do is not be there. You might lose your house, you might lose your possessions, but don't lose your freedom. And the only possibility to do that is to have other Bitcoiners that are in your network that are there for you as well. And so it's like a mesh of people that work together or are able or willing to help each other out. And that's, of course, a worst case scenario, but it doesn't have to be worst case, but it's just people organizing themselves. And so in our Meshtadel theories, we went very far and very deep and in different strategies. In political aspects even, how would you organize that? We came quickly to Dunbar's number, that if you come close to 150 in a Meshtadel, groups should separate themselves. And that doesn't mean then that those separated groups do not communicate with each other anymore. It's just that they become different organisms. I don't want to say organizations, it's more organisms, because each group, small or big, they decide how to cooperate with each other.
Different physical location, but still part of the same organism.
Yeah. And automatically the same visions will coalescence to each other, whereas other visions coalescence with their united vision. not being in war with each other, but just having different views, which is perfectly okay. My neighbor is Muslim, I'm not. Good. We don't have any problems with each other religion. We can still work together. We can be even in the same Meshtadel as long as that's not a problem for us. When it becomes a problem, when he has a problem that I eat pork, then it might be better that I'm in a different Meshtadel, but still I can trade with him. And then you can have this on different levels. Like within the Meshtadel, my meal would be 100 sats. When somebody from another Meshtadel comes, it's 200 sats, for example. Doesn't have to be. It's just one of the million possibilities that you have in self-organizing, in pure freedom, to put it like that. And in pure freedom, it would find itself a way.
It's like nature, right?
Yeah.
It finds a way, it works itself out. And these natural structures that... I'll give you an example. The forced friendships and forced acquaintances that I've had throughout my life, through work, through just survival, have never been anywhere near as close and real as the ones that I've found in Bitcoin. And that is because I associate myself with people within Bitcoin who have shared incentives. We're aligned in certain ways and we communicate on a certain level, and it's natural. It happens naturally. Like I have a conversation with someone and I will gravitate towards them for a certain reason and vice versa. And then ideas start to happen naturally. And then the more people who get involved in those ideas, the more they refine and the better they become. And that is literally, that's nature. And it's the complete opposite of the structure that we have around us, which is hierarchical, a few people making decisions at the top who are so far away from what those decisions affect. Whereas what you're actually talking about is small groups below that Dunbar number where you can see and feel the changes and decisions that you make right in front of your eyes. So you're very, very quick to react and refine. It's much more efficient. And it doesn't also, you're still saying, well, you're not just doing that and you're going off into the middle of the woods with 150 or less and you don't communicate with the outside world. You are part of this Meshtadel, I think is what you're saying, is that it's like we are on Bitcoin Twitter. You still can communicate, you can still buy, trade, help each other, but it's just that you live with the people that most align with the way that you want to live your life. And that's fucking beautiful. That is so clever and just would be such a nice way of living and so much more efficient. It's the dream. I mean, that's fucking awesome.
And because you don't even have to live together, it can be like Solex Boy described it as he tadelt everything. So it's the smallest unit is a house tadel, and then you can have a street tadel, etc.
Street tadel, I love
it. But the thing is, because it are maximally 150 people together, you cannot impose on anybody else. Because for each Meshtadel, there are 5-10 Meshtadels around you. So if one starts to become aggressive, automatically it balances itself out. And it's like you said, it's there is no hierarchy, and that even within the Meshtadels, within Dunbar, and that's something I only realized when I was doing the write-up with Solex Boy, was that you have your kin, your super family, clan, tribe, I think, that it was in the picture. So there are subgroups within a Meshtadel setting or in a Dunbar number of the 150, you have those gradients. So it is perfectly possible that you feel more aligned with one certain group more than the rest. That are the groups that can pull apart. So you don't need 150 people. You can also have a smaller group. But with those people, you feel better. And Sino and I, we are both already in a small Telegram group. You know about it. We're very close. We're very tight. And
yes,
yeah, that's exactly the feeling that you would want to reach to, and that evolves also. And that's why also in the beginning of the show I said your life evolves. I had friends before, I have now different friends, and now I'm evolving more to a Bitcoin setting of people, whereas the old friends, I don't hate them. I still talk to them when I see them, but they became more to me acquaintances because I just have different values at this moment, I would say. So I think it's because it's so free, it can be a living organism. You don't have to agree with each other. That's not natural that everybody would be kumbaya with a billion people together.
No, of course.
Yeah, it only becomes a problem when it becomes violent. When you try to impose something onto somebody else. So why fight?
Zeno, any thoughts on this?
There's a lot to digest. But just to pick up on the last thing about we don't have to agree, I actually agree, ironically, that we don't have to agree. Because the moment when we all agree, like for eternity, I think this might be our downfall as humanity, because we don't fortify this resilience that arrives out of the disagreement. Because if two ideas disagree with each other, then we build a synthesis and create a better idea, you know? And this is prevalent in the Bitcoin community, that there's so many different ideas, but I think this is why we are such a strong community, because we play out like in the safety of fellow Bitcoiners, like conflicting ideas, and we arrive on a standpoint that then we probably can then agree on that, maybe. Okay, maybe I'm talking shite right now.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. You agree on the points that you agree, but that doesn't mean that you have to agree on everything.
Yep.
And there where you can find consensus, you interact with each other. And there where you don't find consensus, you just go to the next group and go somewhere else. That's like free trade.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as long as both ideas can coexist, then it's all good. And if one fails, then there is still the other one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so often that I communicate with certain Bitcoiners, and 95% of what we communicate on, completely agree, we're completely aligned. 5% I think is nonsense, but that doesn't matter. I'm like, that's fine. If that's your agreement, if that's the way you look at the world, that's absolutely fine. The fact is we agree on these other points and we can communicate on these and we're aligned. And I really enjoy those parts of our communication, and we just don't discuss or deal with the other stuff. It's like no one's perfectly aligned. And to your point there, Zeno, like where you're saying if we were all to be aligned completely, I think we'd be missing something. That's absolutely right. If you're not challenging ideas, we're lazy.
Yeah, just imagine we all would be perfectly happy by using blockchain.com as a wallet, because we all agree, hey, this is where it's at. This is what we all have to do. I think we would all be bankrupt by now. Completely wrecked. So I'm glad that there's a huge diversity of strategies and hardware wallets and software, because hackers cannot attack them all at once. Like they can maybe attack one exchange or one specific hardware wallet like Ledger, but there are others out there and they're completely safe so far.
They could attack one citadel, but not the Meshtadel, by the sounds of it.
Yep, I think that's also why Soul Exporter derived this concept with the sun, because if you have one citadel and we are all on one island, maybe, if they just drop one H-bomb, we are all gone.
Yep.
But if we're all over the place in different groups, then it's way harder to take down the network. It's the same with all the decentralized nodes. You can maybe take down one node or one hub, but there's still a huge ecosystem that is going on despite.
Yep. And the strength is in numbers, because that's the weakness of being a NIM and being a solo Bitcoiner. If they find you, you're finished. Because one man cannot stand on his own. But when you have a group where you can fall back on, you don't need to fight. It's just be in the group of protection. If I'm not there where the strike is coming, they have lost. And that's the most important part, is that we are not alone. Bitcoin is a network. We have to network with each other. And that's where untapped growth, and those initiatives become so important because if everybody puts their money in Bitcoin only, and nobody accepts Bitcoin in the shops or the farms especially, that's why the farmers are so important. If you're not self-sufficient you live in the city and you don't have your own garden or whatever, and you only have Bitcoin, you're gonna have to sell at some point to be able to feed your family.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a Bitcoin farmer and he accepts sats, you're selling for food, and it's something else than selling for fiat.
Also, what I noticed is that Bitcoiners, they tend to give discount to each other.
Yeah.
A pleb rate, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's an advantage we have in our community is that we give each other favors. We do things for free. We help out because we are striving for a common goal. And it also includes giving discounts. Like for example, I helped Untapped Growth with his website, did final touches in the design, and my rate was way lower than I would have normally charged because he is a fellow pleb and I believe in what he's doing. And I gave him that discount because it's worth it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like you said, it's partly because we all have a common goal, but I actually think on a slightly more selfish way, we know if someone fucks someone over in this space, everyone will know about it.
Yeah.
So there is a huge amount of value in the trust and the networks that we build. And that is not seen elsewhere. In every other business, in every other sector that I've been in, and I've dotted around in a lot of them, it is generally take what you possibly can, take everything from them, move on to the next. It's a ruthless, high time preference, shitty way to go through life. And now you come across to Bitcoin, and it's the complete opposite, is that you are building a reputation, you help other people knowing that if they don't help you back, their reputation will also be scuppered. So there is an incentive that is aligned, which is we have a common goal and we help each other out because you know that the people who don't actually reciprocate will not last long. And so you can it's almost like you have that backing of a community where you know people would be very short-sighted to mistreat their fellow Bitcoiners. And so it gives you a little bit of security there.
That's actually a point in the Meshtadel as well, or in the concept of the chain of trust, where I want to organize we want to organize within Europe mini meetups, because Miami, big event, a lot of Bitcoiners together, happy. But there you don't really get to know each other as a person. Whereas in the mini meetup, you might really get to know the people. And if I meet with Zeno and he's a super bloke, and then Zeno meets with Max and they say, oh, super bloke. And then a friend of yours, super bloke. And then that friend of yours wants to come in my neighborhood. You can refer him to Zeno refers him to me, and then I can say, okay, good, he can stay at my place.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you and Zeno take accountability for what that third person does. And you and Zeno Zeno gives his the reference because he met you and he trusts you enough to trust your judgment of that other person to say, okay, he's worth my reputation.
Great point.
Because if that third person would fuck me over and steal everything in the house, okay, that's the end for the other people as well. And that is a chain of trust that you can build upon further.
Yeah, when you put it in that context of the real world, in terms of not Bitcoin Twitter, in terms of really you're meeting and you're taking that trust and the other two are responsible for how you behave, that takes us back to a time which, and I've only really experienced it in one industry that I've been in, which is where a deal is done on a handshake. It is done on reputation, and if you lie or you break that trust, you are done in that industry. And so that is something that I dream of just constantly. I hate solicitors. I hate regulations. I hate all the bullshit. It never really serves most people. It only serves people who know how to play the system or have a lot of influence, power, or money. And most of it's unnecessary, and it creates so much friction and waste of energy. We're talking about permaculture, putting the minimum amount of energy in to take the maximum amount out. And with most deals that are done these days, most of the energy is just wasted with solicitors and bullshit. Whereas what we're talking about is it's done on a handshake, it is done on trust, and it is just done. I imagine with you and Untapped Growth, it was just done and there was no problems.
Yeah, this is also how I got to help Untapped Growth, because he trusted Soul. Soul referred me, and by proxy, Untapped Growth, he also then trusted me. He gave me his credentials to the website, and I was allowed to make changes. And I didn't break the trust because I didn't want, of course, I don't want to do bullshit, but also for Soul's sake, I behaved at the best. So
Thank you.
It came naturally, but of course, for you, I made sure that this trust is not broken.
I literally said I would trust my entire Lightning balance on you. So.
Yeah, that's a very high standard.
That's how it should work. Otherwise, I would not reference you as such. Then I would say, okay, he's a good bloke, and that's it. But I have that trust. Yeah. I feel like we had so many discussions already, very deep. We know things of each other that nobody else on Bitcoin Twitter knows. There is a certain level of trust that we built up, and I just want to see that further in the world. And it's just exactly that chain of trust that makes it possible to make a Meshtadel, for example. Because if you are willing to give up everything, that is not just given as it's not so easy. It's opening up your house for somebody. It's not so easy.
Yep. It's one of the one great paradox in Bitcoin is we have this mantra, don't trust, verify, but then here we are speaking about trusting each other and don't break that one. But I think I said it before, being able to include trust gives an advantage.
It definitely does. It's building real alliances, building real bonds between people who that you can help, they help you, and you can refer to others. And again, in comparison to, I'm sure we're in different countries, but I'm sure you have the same. For most of my life and most of what I deal with, for example, insuring my home, my vehicle, dealing with an agent, whether it be an estate agent or any other type, or a bank, it's just once you've signed a contract, they do the least they possibly can, knowing that the retention rate is low. And then they care less about their current customers and acquaintances than they do about marketing to find new ones. And they spend all this money and all this time marketing and bullshitting to find new ones while the other ones leave because they've treated them like shit. And it seems so inefficient. It seems like if the banking system wasn't the way that it is and our fiat culture wasn't the way that it is, it would fall flat on its face straight away. What we're describing is a culture that is completely opposite to that, which is you go to someone, they treat you well, they obviously earn their money, it has to be worth it for them, and you pay them in sats to the value that they believe is worth it. And it's a truly free market, and they're going to try and retain their customers because, if I go and complain to Virgin Media for my shitty fucking internet that I pay good money for, and I've had, I'm on the phone to them every week and I wait for an hour just to speak to them. If that happened in Bitcoin land, if this happened in the Meshtadel land, straight on the chat groups and saying, well, hold on, Zeno runs this fucking service. He's the ISP. Sort it out. Like, we're all having the problem. And it would either be that you would lose the business or a competitor would come up. And so it takes away this kind of walled garden. It takes away this protection racket that these large corporations have through either backhanders or literally just putting up regulations that stop competitors from coming up. And it solves so many of those problems that are the bane of most of our lives. I think that this whole Meshtadel theory deserves some serious thought. I think that it is. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think it has real legs. And it's actually just literally during this conversation changed the way that I'm viewing. I know what I want. I know the way I want to live, but it's viewing the way that I get there differently. It's changing the way that I'm thinking about it, because this is a really fucking good idea. Really fucking good, and it needs to get out there. People need to be discussing it and working together.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
How do we do it?
Well, come to the meetup.
Where's the meetup?
I will send you the details.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can introduce a little. Like, there is a Discord group we could put in the show notes, where we are planning to discuss local meetups in the EU at least. And Solix Portal already prepared a lot of channels for each country. If we just start finding the people to start discussing how to make it a reality, they can happen very quickly. The first meetup we currently are talking about in our little group is probably going to take place in Czech Republic. Somewhere in how's it called, where you can a camping site with a little lake, and I am looking forward to this. I hope I can make it and meet those guys in the group. It would be great, because this is what currently is still missing. We know each other digitally, at least we know our voices, but being physically present is a whole nother level. And that's something I look forward myself. I think there are Bitcoiners who had a lot of opportunity to meet, maybe some of the class of 2017, maybe earlier, I suppose, like many have met. But as I already told you, I haven't met anybody. And there might be a lot of other Bitcoiners who feel just like me. And I'm looking forward to actually building real solid relationships with other Bitcoiners.
And
way.
the possibilities are legio, right? It's at the moment that you know somebody, it physically, that you trust enough, and there are so many possibilities to build further on that and starting a network. And the problem with those bigger events is that everybody is gonna flock to those known names, and anybody that sees you there, you're automatically doxed. You're a Bitcoiner. And me as a family person, I do not want to be known that much as a Bitcoiner. I can defend myself, but I would be terrified for my family to be in problems, even though I'm a poor Bitcoiner. In Bitcoin terms, I'm a poor guy. It's I'm looking more forward to see the people that we are planning to meet now, then I would be looking forward to meet the Pierre Rochards or the Safidian. However, I'm in awe of all of them. I think it's the local plebs that are going to make the difference, the networking that's going to make the difference in the world.
Yeah. Look, guys, this has been exactly the conversation that I have wanted. It is really important that Bitcoiners can create the freedoms that they want to have, and they can do it in a way where we help each other. Everyone has different bits of expertise. You guys have taught me a lot just from having the conversations that I've had and the ones today, where it's got me thinking about things I wouldn't otherwise. And so many plebs have so much information that they can share. And together, the more that we share that the more efficient we're going to be, the more we can help each other, the more we can have this circular economy, the better. And, we discussed, obviously, the idea of the European meetups, and that things operate a little bit differently here to America. I'm sort of trying to look forward to the next show. You know, we discussed maybe doing something monthly, which I think would be really cool. And I'm thinking maybe the next show should be a little bit more European focused, given that you're doing these Europe meetups, given that all three of us are based here, and looking at expanding possibly on this idea, because I want to keep it free flowing. I don't want to keep it too structured, and we might go off course and come back, over the months. But do you guys think maybe it would be a good idea to do something around this Meshtadel and looking at maybe getting someone on to discuss, or a couple of people on to discuss maybe an idea around land acquisition, building regulation, the self-sustainable idea, and this whole idea of the network, community network, and how it could possibly be that people can work together to achieve these freedoms that we desire? Or do you think that's going to be maybe too much for one episode and we should be a little bit more specific on the next one?
Well, Tino and me, we were discussing this a little bit before the show, actually. And one person who is helping me out in reviewing the article for Citadel 21 as well is poor Ben Gunn. And he's actually UK.
I spoke to him the other day. He's a fucking legend of a man.
He is super awesome.
Yeah, we both agree. He has his own forest, and he's milling lumber, and he, like, of course he's very happy, I guess, about the lumber prices right now. But I remember a specific tweet that he is also offering a pleb discount of lumber to fellow plebs if they reach out to him, just to shill his business a bit. I think he makes quality lumber, and he also is very knowledgeable. Like, we were discussing one time, like we had a little group voice chat, and he knows a lot of stuff, like about strategizing and how to prepare for like certain downfalls, like in communication and such. And I think we can learn a lot from him about becoming more resilient.
Exactly.
Good idea.
And
Good idea.
When he's on a roll, at the moment when we're calling and he is on a roll, I just stop talking, listen the entire time, mouth open, and just enjoy the ride. It's a solo audiobook. He's just great.
Get him on the pod, Max.
Okay, I have actually tried. If he's up for it, I would love to have him on. I chatted to him a little bit the other day. He gave me some great info. I've tried to shill his business to a few builders that I know to pass that on. And he does seem very knowledgeable and, yeah, proper chap. So that would be awesome if we can get him on. And I think that is the right man for that sort of area and a starting point. So let's try and make that happen behind the scenes. And then I think also it would be useful to maybe allow anyone on Twitter to jump in with other ideas that may be for future shows, maybe for this one, or any questions that they have on the upcoming one. And we've got a month to prepare for it, so we've got some time. But I think it would be cool because this is, if we want a Meshtadel, we want as many people involved in this as possible, as many ideas, and for people to reach out and help each other.
I totally agree. Europe really needs to step up its game.
Okay. Sorry, America. This is going Europe focused, at least for now. At least for now. It doesn't mean you can't come on the show and share your expertise in your specific fields. That would be fantastic. But I think that would be good. And I think it would be cool viewing it through the lens of what we're looking for as well, because I personally know that it's something I want to do. Zeno, I know it's something you've already started. Solex, I know that you're sort of halfway there, but you've got other ideas. And we've all got these dreams that we want to fulfill. And now it's time to make them happen. So we're all in Europe. It kind of makes sense to me that we take it that direction.
Yeah, it's especially because we're in awe of some American players, not in the least Untapped Growth. He's doing such amazing things. He truly inspires me. And in Europe, we have a completely different situation with the all small countries within Europe, and even in the countries, smaller patches of ground. Big differential between Spain and Norway, for example. So there's a huge range within Europe. And it is time to get more organized within Europe as well, I think.
Yeah. Some think that the situation in Europe is lost, but I like to disagree. Like, if we give up the fight now and just move all to America, I think that would be
Terrible.
silly.
Yeah.
We should build something beautiful here and show that Europe can be much better collection of countries.
The borders are only for politicians within Europe.
That's right. The borders are there. It's not for our benefit. Yeah, we can do better. We can do much better. So, all right, let's reach out. I'll try and reach out to Ben Gunn, see if he'll come on the next one.
We will spam him as well.
Perfect. Let's all.
Yeah, we smooth talking into it.
Yeah. Let's all really pressure him into it.
Yeah.
and look, it'd be really cool if you guys want to join as well. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's keep thinking of ideas. And let's make some changes. I love this. I love where it's gone. I love this Meshtadel idea. I think it makes much more sense than my ideas a couple of hours ago. And that's what this is all about, is refining our ideas and moving towards a better future. So is there anything that we haven't covered that either of you really specifically wanted to cover? Or are you happy to roll those ideas over to the next one and we keep going?
Yeah, if you want to go into any topic more specifically, I'm happy to come on again and talk in more depth to the best of my knowledge.
Perfect. I think, I personally would love to hear more on the permaculture stuff and what you've gone through finding your land, because I sort of derailed us a little bit. So apologies for that. But I would love to hear more on that. So we'll definitely do that. And Solex?
Sino is my hero, and just glad to be able to be with you guys here. I'm also looking forward to hear more of the permaculture. I didn't know it was more than gardening, so also the house and everything, and it opened another. The rabbit hole was there already, but it is now a more gaping hole, inviting me deeper and deeper. So, looking forward to more.
It's so deep. So deep. I have not seen the end of it yet. There might not be one.
Well, I'm really glad to have you there.
It sounds like it is a rabbit hole that goes as deep as Bitcoin, and that is endless. But it's a fascinating thing to jump into, and it's incredibly important. It just makes so much sense from the very, very tiny amount that I understand about it. It seems like a fantastic way to do things, and it really seems like a more logical way to do things than we currently are. So I'm definitely going to badger you and find out about that on the next pod. And if you guys fancy it, let's all jump on the next one, and let's open up to Twitter. Anyone who wants to send us some ideas, please do so. But this has been fantastic. It's been more than I could have possibly hoped for, and absolutely know I made the right decision getting you two on. It has been brilliant, and I really, really look forward to the next ones and building this Meshtadel idea out. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, too. It's been a lot of fun.
Same here.
All right, guys. I'll close it out now, and we'll have a quick chat offline.
Perfect.